The No Nonsense Roundtable, a weekly radio show and podcast where host Dom Genova interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. And now, here's your host, Dom Genova.
Well, the first guy I have for you today is a fellow by the name of Bob Sneider. Now, Bob is an associate professor at the Eastman School of Music, but that's not all. He used to tour with a fella that you know, Chuck Mangione, and that is a pretty cool thing. He has stories about that, and he has stories about the school itself and his philosophy of teaching. Fascinating guy, and Bob, let's find out a little bit about Bob.
Let's go from there. I mean, you've been in the entertainment business for so long. So let's give everybody a little bit of eyewash of what, I don't know where that name came from. Eyewash. I had a boss, 30 years ago say, let's give him some eyewash, and I still don't know what that means. But I use it all the time. Let's get eyewash.
Yeah.
I should call him up someday and find out what the hell he was talking about. Let's give him a little bit of background. Now, one of the things I love to do, because it's such a crazy question, is that when I talk to somebody, I ask them, what did you want to do when you were 10 years old? And, you talk to Czech Italo. He says, oh, mom and dad gave me a couple of little plastic toys there were musical instruments. So I was a little boy, and I took off with that. And you had some people that say, I have absolutely no idea. I wanted to be an astronaut or something. So what did you want to do when you were like 10 years old?
Oh, if you asked me when I was 10 years old, depending on what season it was, I wanted to play for the Boston Celtics.
Okay.
And I've reached my all-time greatest height of maybe 5'4.5" before gravity took hold. And then maybe I wanted to, if it was baseball season, I wanted to play for the Red Sox.
Oh no!
Sorry, man.
That's as bad on this show. That's as bad as dropping the F-bomb.
Okay.
I'm a Yankees fan. I was there in 1977 when Reggie hit his 3 home runs in the World Series. I was there. Yeah, I still got that ticket. Somebody says I can get like $1,500 for that, just the ticket alone. So,
oh man.
So what was your path? I mean, you have gotten involved in music in a wonderful contribution sort of way, and let's explain to people what you are and what you do.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been teaching at the Eastman School of Music. This is my 29th year.
Wow.
Yeah. It seems amazing since I started when I was 11 years old. No, I wasn't 11. But I feel like I've had one of the most charmed lives in terms of like different kinds of doors that have opened up to me exactly when they needed to. And before joining the Eastman School of Music, and my role here is twofold. I teach for our community music school, where I have students that can range from 7 years old to 97 years old. I haven't had anyone that long, but and then I also have a very hefty academic load teaching our college jazz program, teaching improvisation and jazz guitar majors, and that's been going on for quite a while. And my days before joining the Eastman faculty, and then I had a short stint at Alfred University until that drive became untenable.
You were driving from Rochester to Alfred?
Oh yeah.
Like every day, or would you spend
No.
time? Oh, okay.
One day a week, and
Okay.
then one blown head gasket going through Stony Brook Park was enough to say, this isn't
Yeah.
really such a good idea.
Yeah. Okay.
And then that was my very first year teaching at Eastman too. So I'm like trying to build things up here. And then I'm like, yeah, I'll take that on too. And it was pretty crazy. But before that, I had toured with Chuck Mangione for, I don't know, I think it was over 4 years or so. And I had auditioned for him right out of
Oh, really?
college. And I'd kind of expected maybe to have more of a cursory role in the music world. Maybe I listened to my parents too much, like, do something like be a lawyer like your grandfather,
Oh
but
yeah,
then
yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
you can play
Yeah.
music for fun.
Oh,
But
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah,
but as soon as I flew the coop and came here to Rochester, I studied
yeah,
at the Eastman School of Music and the University of Rochester. I just,
yeah.
I just knew that I'm gonna end up in music, and then my mom still kept this dream alive that I would be like her
Yeah.
dad. I'd become a lawyer, and I even took a LSAT review course, and then I had to tell her that, like, hey, I took this audition with Chuck Mangione, and the I think one of the first tour dates conflicts with the
Uh,
LSAT,
yeah.
and she
Okay,
was
I got it.
she was excited because they used to take us, and we'd be like, those zealot teenagers in the front row at Chuck concerts
Hmm.
buying t-shirts from Papa Mangione and stuff, and then so she was excited, but she's like, but you'll still take the LSAT, right?
I'm laughing with that because were you in the Jazz Singer? I mean, that's what this story is. It's the damn Jazz Singer. You've heard this a million times. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
No, you should. You shouldn't play. You're a Manning. Manning don't play football. It's just
so
yeah.
so
Always
the
somebody discouraging you. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
so
I'm
it
sorry.
was it was always funny on stage
Yeah,
when Chuck would introduce me, and he would
yeah.
say, and a graduate of the University of Rochester with a
Hmm.
degree in political science. And the people would start laughing. Yeah.
Okay.
So I
Well,
would, oh, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. So were you with him at the same time Tysick was?
No, no,
Okay.
I was with him. I think I auditioned for him towards the end of '93.
Okay.
And it was really on um, the recommendation of his brother Gap, who had heard me
Yeah.
play,
Hmm.
and it wasn't like the old days, where where everybody had cell phones and email addresses.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Everything was like, call this guy to get this guy's number, and then I don't know, somebody ended up calling one of Chuck's old friends in New York City. And then he said, "Oh, I think I know this guy's brother." My brother was in New York City at the time, and he still is. And so they got my phone number. And when you're a college student and you're moving to new apartments all the time, your number changes like every
Right.
6 months.
Hmm.
And so then I got a message on my machine that it was requested that I take an audition. I didn't think I had much of a chance because I knew that some other pretty heavy players had already auditioned for him, and I'm like, I guess I'll do this before I take the LSAT.
Yeah.
So
Okay. That's great. The thing I say all the time, um, is that uh, there are people that want to do work in the arts. Okay.
mhm,
And you don't want to discourage your child from doing something in the arts. But I think there's two things with it. One is that they have to have a God-given talent. It's like my daughter is a professional photographer, and she's in New York, and she's doing some extraordinary things. She just did a shoot for Macy's, and she did Shakira a couple of weeks ago and whatever. But she's got an eye, okay. But the thing is that you may not have that eye, so you have to do something else. It
right,
may, and I've had this discussion with Jeff Tysick. You might not be able to play because you don't have the God-given talent for it, or you didn't work as much, but you can be in the same atmosphere
right,
as that, as where you want to be. And it's really fortunate with somebody like yourself when you're being kind of discouraged, like, maybe you don't want to do that. But, some people do become big league ball players. You don't want to discourage that person. The person that does have the talent, you don't want to automatically exclude your child from that. But then again, you can't tell them, oh, you're great. You're going to do what? No. Not everybody that plays music, not everybody that plays the piano can make music, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think because I get a lot of questions from
Yeah.
parents of prospective
Yeah.
students. They're like, what's he or she going to be able to do? And I said,
Mm,
well, I mean, you never know. I said, I'm a firm believer in the idea that people end up doing what they're supposed to do.
yeah.
And I've had students graduate from the Eastman School of Music who have become medical doctors after the fact,
Hmm.
where and things I've found out that oftentimes students that go to school for music become amazing problem
Yeah.
solvers. They become, incredible
Hmm.
negotiators. They develop confidence for commanding a room in different ways. So I really do believe that people end up doing what they're supposed to do,
Hmm.
even if they've dedicated their life to something. Sometimes it ends up being being just a little bit different. And every time I would say to Chuck Mangione, I would say it's like man, you saved me from law school, and he would just have like a dry response. He's like I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I originally went to St. Bonaventure for engineering, and my first semester I got a one. I think it was a 178, and if I followed that path, I would have either killed somebody or dropped out. So that wasn't my plan, but it worked
Mhm.
out really well. The way
Yeah,
things,
sure.
failing at something doesn't make you a failure.
No,
So,
absolutely not.
let's talk about the craft of what you play and how many
Mhm.
instruments you do, and let's talk about that and where do you get joy
Sure.
from and all those little things about life.
Yeah, well, I started playing the guitar at age 6.5 after about a year and a half of playing piano. Um,
So six.
and
Hold on a second. So let's do the math here. My engineering skills aren't all that good, but at 6 years old, you had played the piano for a year and a half.
well, 6.5. Yeah, so I started piano at 5 and then guitar at six and a
Whoa,
half. Yeah,
whoa!
yeah.
This isn't like Snyder on Charlie Brown, right? I mean, this is like a real piano. This isn't,
Yeah, like real
real,
piano.
real
Yeah.
piano.
Yeah,
Wow.
real piano, yeah.
So, I mean, God gave you a gift. I mean, at that age.
Yeah, and I think even though my parents thought I would end up doing something different than what I'm doing, they sure made every opportunity possible for me and spoiled me rotten with great instruments, great
Yeah,
teachers,
yeah,
everything you could ever
yeah,
imagine with. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So that's what so I mean early
yeah,
on
yeah,
I couldn't necessarily foresee what I would do, and I
yeah,
had a great teacher by the name of Chet Crewley, and if he were
yeah.
alive today, he'd probably be about 104. And he used to tour with some of the famous big bands like Fletcher
Ah,
Henderson and Jimmy Lunsford. And he, in those early days, he was just teaching me the basics of the instrument. And then I went through a heavy metal phase where I was playing, Ozzy
you?
Osbourne,
I'm looking at you
Scorpions,
now. I
Black
can't I
Sabbath.
can't see. Yeah, I can't. Anybody? Well, this is Zoom, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
So I'm looking at this fella does not look like he would be heavy metal.
no, but add some follicles and some Jimi Hendrix t-shirts and
Yeah.
yeah, little rougher look. Yeah, but back in the day, that's where my passion was.
Wow.
And then someday I think because I followed in my brother's footsteps, who's a trumpet player,
Uh-huh.
then I started getting into jazz, and I was also playing saxophone too. Um, and and then so I asked my teacher, I said, "What can you teach me about jazz?" And then
Yeah.
he unloaded. So he told the owner of the music store that Well, I'm gonna give that Snyder kid. He's gonna get his lesson. I'm gonna do a house call for him, and he would come over to my house. He'd give me 2 hour lessons,
Wow.
and he just, I mean, he just poured so much knowledge into me, and I mean, it's the basis for what I do as a teacher now, and
Yeah.
and he just had such a
Yeah.
gentle and loving and supporting way that didn't make any of it feel high pressure.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way I like to think about teaching. I mean, it's like if you want to get the best out of somebody, you can't like, you know, scare them. It's like
Yeah.
you've got to like, lift them up where they are, and try to get those skills to move forward. And I always say to my students, if you play with greater confidence and joy, you're going to play your best.
Yeah. Well,
So,
it's gonna come through to the
yeah,
audience. I mean, that I
yeah,
really do think that there's some psychology in that also. You know, Scott Mayo, who's been on my show a couple of times, and we became pretty good friends. He says, the thing is, he says, he says, you got to do the work. She goes, you can have the natural talent. He goes, but you have to do the work. And Jack Alacco, I was talking to Jack, and Jack practices his guitar every day for hour and a half.
yeah,
Yeah, even at his advanced age, which is like our advanced age, I think. So,
yeah, yeah. Jack's a great guy. So Scott, they're awesome.
oh yeah, we had, the thing about Rochester is that, and I've always said this, that the culture here is for music is wonderful, and there's a lot of people that are, um, and I'm trying to encourage this with the Rochester Music Mafia. For anybody that doesn't know, I have a Facebook page and a web page. It's sort of like the Buffalo Bills Mafia. It's not
Yep.
mafia like we come over and we shoot you with Tommy guns. It's a mafia thing. So to bring people together because there's such a rich culture of music in
Oh
Rochester that
yeah,
goes
yeah.
beyond. I mean, I talk to
Mhm.
Gene Cornish every day. I mean, like how would I get to know these guys? I call Felix Cavalieri the other. I'm dropping names. Hey Felix, how you doing? Or Bobby Rush. Do you know Bob? You must know Bobby Rush, don't you?
I've met him one time. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, 83 years old, and he just got his third Grammy. Is like, I mean, and this guy's playing. I met him because he was playing at this little club in Lima,
Lima.
uh,
Yeah, yeah,
Fanatics. It's
yeah,
like, this place is really rich with
yeah.
music if you know where to go and how to find it. Because I think a lot of people just aren't all that aware of it, which is the essence of my Facebook thing there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what is the most fun you've ever had in music? Don't talk about that, that you educated a kid and no. Talk about something that you've done that was like really cool, that you met somebody or you played someplace or you got a real high out of doing something. What give me something.
Yeah, I would say like I mean there's like different eras of like those like wow moments
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
in my career, and I I think back to I obviously it was very thrilling when I first started playing Chuck's gig, but it was also like I was like going at it like when I wasn't on the stage, I was practicing the living daylights out of the music
Mm-hmm.
so I wouldn't flop, and
Oh,
and
yeah,
and
yeah.
and it's I've always had like a really strong constitution for practicing and
Mm-hmm.
perfection. And one thing I always tell my students too is like I'm a slow learner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a quick study. Um, so I really take my time to learn things. And there were some stressful moments of like, oh my gosh, I've got like 8 days until go time, and these tunes aren't ready yet, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And so the early days were like flying by the seat of my pants,
Yeah.
and then but I think when I really started to come into my own on the
Mm-hmm.
job, like when I felt like I could tell he was happier, so that was like okay, all that
Yeah.
hard work is paying off, and the gig is gone from
Yeah.
like this checklist of things. Is this going to be
Yeah.
okay? Is that going to be
Yeah.
okay? And then it was just like just pure fun and joy, and that's what I would say. I don't even remember exactly
Yeah.
what date that was, but that
Yeah.
was just awesome. So, and we would have like these these amazing performances, sometimes with, big symphony orchestras or, you know, probably like my earliest like triumphant like oh my gosh, I'm gonna play the Blue Note in New York City
Mhm.
and I'm gonna get in the Blue Note and I'm not gonna have to pay to get in. I'm like paid to
They're
be
gonna pay
there.
you. Yeah. Yeah. That's.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was like it was the most
Uh,
magical week,
mhm.
culminated by Chuck taking me to Yankee Stadium and he's playing the national anthem. We're sitting in George Steinbrenner's box
Wow.
seats up in the
Wow. Wow.
luxury
Wow.
scene. George wasn't
Wow.
there, but we still, we got
Yeah.
like Cracker Jacks handed to us with
Yeah.
white gloves on and stuff and
Yeah.
and Don Mattingly's greeting us
Yeah.
on the field, and Bernie Williams comes down to the club. I mean, it was
Wow. Yeah.
surreal, even
Yeah.
for a Red Sox fan.
You
And
had to bring that up.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
Oh,
the Yankees
yeah.
won that day, so
Oh,
that,
good, good, good,
yeah,
good, good.
yeah,
Well, the thing about the word that you used just before that is it is not to sound sentimental, but is God's gift is that you get to do something with joy. And nobody is at an
right.
assembly line has, you might be satisfied that you're doing, or you have the money or whatever, but the
Hmm.
feeling of emotional joy, and joy is fleeting. I mean,
Hmm.
joy is a very, very odd thing because you have moments of joy that just absolutely unexpected, and they're moments of joy from accomplishing something, and there's moments of joy from accomplishing something and not having screwed up.
Right.
And I'm sure you come across that because that sounds like what you were talking about playing with Chuck. You want to do well, you want to have a
Yeah.
good, but it's also a relief, which has got to be a feeling of joy after it's all done, and you can say, it's over. But I can relive that in my mind for a while and just
Yeah.
experience that joy, right?
Yeah. 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 And then just, like
Yeah,
getting past that point where
yeah,
it's like every night is more joyful than
yeah, yeah, yeah,
then it's
yeah,
like a distant memory, but you appreciate how much hard work
yeah.
went into it. Yeah. But I mean there's
Like,
like all kinds
yeah.
of other, things like, having, once I started teaching here, other opportunities opened up, like playing with other orchestras, like Rochester Philharmonic and
Mm.
Erie Philharmonic, Chautauqua, Buffalo, and it's like all these things, and it's like, and I get all these like calls, like doing like odd stuff, like playing, banjo, for a few
Uh,
pieces on a
yeah,
Renee
yeah,
Fleming concert,
yeah, yeah.
with this orchestra, that orchestra, or playing ukulele with Sutton Foster on this concert, and it's like you just like, you
Yeah,
sort of develop, these what I like to call working musician skills. So you have
yeah.
the ability to do this, or playing, a little suite of Neapolitan themes with Luciano Pavarotti and things like that.
Really? Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, I mean, I just like, I think
Hmm.
of like all these opportunities that have come up, and it's like I say, it's like these different moments
Hmm.
of, like, really joyful moments, and then things that are, would be like, really outside of the box. People wouldn't expect a jazz guy to do. Like
Mm. Yeah.
I got asked to play with Stuart Copeland from The Police.
Mm.
Um, that was actually here in Rochester, and then his management, I guess, had requested that I join them with, for some concerts in Pennsylvania too. And I was like, "Okay, let's go, let's do this." Yeah. And I learned I learned the music, and it was with orchestra too. So it was, a lot of the stuff was, was very new to me, but I was, definitely a
Yeah.
child of the 70s and a teen at the peak of their popularity. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
having breakfast with Stewart and like getting all these like crazy stories.
Yeah.
It's really
Wow.
awesome.
And that now you can hire lawyers. You don't have to be a lawyer.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Thankfully,
it.
I have friends who are attorneys. Yes.
Yes, yes. I have friends that own boats. It's that's yeah, yeah, that's yeah, it's right. It's not, you find friends that have boats. So what here's a kind of an off the wall question. So what in your career, what has surprised you the most? You have to have an aha moment and you say, what I didn't realize this was like that. Is there anything like this happened in your life that you could look at, or a person that has surprised you either for the good or the bad?
Um, Thankfully, I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I've felt like, you know, somebody has surprised me
Yeah.
for the bad, for
Oh, you're a lucky man.
for
Obviously
for the
you don't
negative.
go on. Obviously you don't go online.
Ask my
Obviously you
wife,
don't have
like
a Facebook account. Obviously you
all
don't
too
have a
much.
Facebook account.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, no. But in what I do,
Oh,
so
I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't feel like that. And there have been situations like in my
Yeah.
education, like when I thought to myself, like, it's like, why is that guy so hard on me? Why is he,
Wow. Yeah.
why is he? And then once I start teaching myself, and I'm like,
Yeah.
holy cannoli, I learned a
Yeah.
lot from that guy,
Yeah.
and it's like, and then you
Yeah.
start to you take stock and like, oh, I see, he was pushing me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know. I mean, the one thing I would say that I think I'm pleasantly surprised about the best people that I run into in this music, and many of them are right here in Rochester.
Mm-hmm.
They also happen to be some of the nicest people, most
Mm.
encouraging people I've ever come across. And then when people that I'm meeting for the first time, for many years, I used to host a jazz series at the Strathallan Hotel, and I would bring in all of these folks, and they would do workshops at Eastman, which I would arrange for, and then
Mm-hmm.
they would play the weekend at the Strath. We'd visit some public schools doing workshops, and I think like in every instance, everybody that I brought up, they were just like so giving of their time. And these are like
Mm-hmm.
some of the people that might not be winning Grammy Awards, but they
Yeah.
are like some of the people who I would consider to be
Mm-hmm.
the absolute best at what they do. And just how natural and caring they are, whether they're talking to a student from the community music school who's in
Mm-hmm.
his mid 80s, or they're talking to a high school student, or talking to a college student. To them, it's just people, and just
Yeah.
and it
I,
was
you know, I,
really it was great.
I get asked the question all the time to say, well, you really like music. Did you play music when you were, the funny thing is I word it this way. It's kind of crazy. I like musicians more than I like music because you guys all are, you're doing something that's totally human. It's creative. It's never the same thing twice. You're trying to make people happy and
Hmm.
engaged, or you're trying to teach them something like Jeff Tyson says, it's teaching them something through the music.
Hmm.
And that's really a cool thing. So, people say, what kind of music you like? I go, I like both types of music, country and Western. So so, you know, but that's the thing, and that is why I gravitate a lot about having people like you on the show. There are people, don't say unsung heroes, I guess they used to say years ago. I don't know if they still use that term. But people that are contributing their time or their talent. And we just lost a fellow that was my best friend. Actually, I always say this, Chuck Mangione, who was my best.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't his best friend because I know he had friends from, 70, 80 years ago. He was my best friend. And
Mhm.
I got to know him really well. And the humanity and the soul of this fella. And he would say, he says, I don't care if I'm playing in front of 2 people or 20,000 people. I owe them my best. And that's the way he acted and he worked. It's like, God, this is really a very, very cool guy. And there's a lot of guys like you and him that maybe people don't know about, but they should know. That's what the whole show is about. People that you want to know more about, and people that you don't know that you should know. And you're one of those guys.
Oh,
I could.
thank you.
Well, no,
Appreciate it.
that's the thing. Now, let me ask you some like typical interview questions. Okay, so when you are teaching a kid, when you first see them, do you have any essence of, oh, they're going to make it, or oh, this is going to be a problem? Do you have any essence of what their talent is, or their ability to do what they want to do years from now? Can you see that when you first see them or not?
Not in the first lesson. There are
Mm,
some very rare talents. There's I can think of a couple of uh, students who started studying with me at a young age here in the Rochester area. One
mhm,
by the name of Gabe Condon, and I knew like right away. And then another student of mine, Robert Verone, and these guys are some of the really best and brightest
mhm,
players. They could be playing with anybody, and
mhm,
Rob's teaching at RIT now. Gabe is a professor at Hamilton College. I mean, these are top shelf guys. Another student of mine, Adrian DiMatteo.
mhm,
It's like there's sometimes you get that glimpse. There's a little bit different, and that's when they're really young, like 10, 11 years old.
mhm,
And then I always like to say some of my students, I don't go by first impression. I go by, okay, after that first month of lessons, what's happening now? And I had like literally three of my students that were at our jazz camp last summer
mhm,
that sound like different players than when they did at the
mm,
camp. So that's why I like to like sort of measure how quickly do people develop after getting exposed to some helpful
yeah,
ways of thinking, and sort of that I don't necessarily think of like instant star. I tend to think of like what's
mhm,
the rate of growth. And some of my all-time greatest students, I remember another one of my students he teaches at Hobart College now. He came in to take a lesson, came all the way from Colorado, and we spent about 90 minutes together. And then when I heard his pre-screen audition and then I heard his live audition, I'm like, okay, I think it's starting to take
mm.
hold. And then by the time he showed up the following fall for school, I was like, this guy's a killer. He's unbelievable. Yeah. So it's
So,
it's
at this
rate of
point,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I
Okay.
think it's rate of growth versus um,
Ah,
instant star. So yeah,
ah,
yeah. That's what
ah,
I
yeah,
that's what I think
yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe I'm
yeah.
biased because I'm a slow
No,
learner.
no. There's a concept. When I worked for Chrysler, we judged we judged our employees. I had 11 guys that worked for me, and they were calling on dealers, and we had the three P's. It just came to mind now. It was performance, potential, and the other one was promotability. Are they ready yet?
Yeah,
It's sort of like they might not be seasoned enough yet. They're going to be great stars, but they're not seasoned
right.
enough yet. And I think that's a little
Sure.
bit of what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
the crop blooms here in this time period, but some of it's earlier and some of it's later, right? I mean, that's just the way things are.
Yeah.
What's great about the show? I learned stuff from all my people that I interviewed. That's a very good concept, though. Yeah, a little late bloomer or whatever, and you can't give up on that person because you might have been giving up on somebody who really has it. So
Yeah.
at this point in your career, you have to have lots of people coming back to you and going, "Oh, thank you for what you did," and you taught me.
Yeah, yeah. And because I
That's cool.
work
Yeah,
with so many different people, from the college students to the community music
yeah,
students, I I just feel so lucky that I get to work with so many different kinds of people, and and I just
yeah,
it's incredibly gratifying. And if you were to
yeah,
ask me, like, you know, 16-year-old me, do you think you'd be doing this? And I'd be like,
yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah.
not,
Oh,
and um and but I look at it right now, and I honestly, I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else, teaching, and I get to play with some of the best musicians in the world who just happen to be right here in Rochester.
well, Jack Palomino said it. He says, "When you do something you love, you don't work a day in your life."
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and by the way, he was somebody who, talking about lawyers, he was somebody that was going to law school.
Wow.
And yeah, and became the disc jockey and then and ended up owning all those radio stations.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
so with that, Bob, we're running out of time, but it's delightful to finally meet you and hear about
Yeah.
there's so many wonderful musicians and people in the music business in Rochester. It is a very fertile a piece of land for that, and God bless you for what you do. And even, I mean, take a look at even the theaters we have between the Kodak Hall at Eastman, and you got the West Hers getting
Oh yeah.
renovated. I mean, these are classic places. You go down to Broadway, and none of those theaters is any better than the Kodak Hall at Eastman. I mean, it's just you know.
I'll take Kodak Hall. I'll take
Mhm.
Kilbourne Hall, Hatch
Oh
Hall.
yeah. But you know what? The first time I was at Kilbourne was just a little while ago, maybe a year or two ago. That's amazing.
Oh yeah.
That's a great venue.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
I've had some visiting students like look around, and they see, it's like, they're like, "Wow, it's like a Harry Potter set. This is
it's like
incredible."
it's like you're at Oxford, for God's sakes. Yeah. Yeah.
I know, I
It
know.
is.
Yeah,
Oh, well, thank
yeah,
you for coming on the show. I'll have to come across your path one of these days. I was
yeah.
delighted that you were available, and good luck. And like I say, God bless you for what you do.
Oh, thanks so much, Dom. And if you can make it Sunday the 22nd, 3:30 p.m., the music of Chuck Mangione in Hatch Hall.
Oh, I will absolutely be there. There's no question about it. Okay, so
Awesome.
thanks. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is our segment for right now, and we're going to have a little commercial, and we will see you after that.
Thanks for listening. You can find our previous shows at nononsenseroundtable.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.